After joining Aston Villa at the start of the season as a set-piece coach, Austin MacPhee had created quite the buzz amongst Aston Villa fans. After all, the concept of a set-piece specialist is relatively new, and the idea of Aston Villa being early adopters of that is quite exciting. However, the shaky start to the season under Dean Smith left many of us thinking he should have followed Smith out the door. But, as the mighty Stevie G has done to most things at Aston Villa, he's now firing on all cylinders. Let's take a look. Hello Villa fans and welcome back. I'm Mike, aka Villa Analytics, and this week we'll be taking a look at set pieces and the wonderful man that is Austin MacPhee. During Smith's 11 games in charge this season, 3 of Aston Villa's 14 goals have come from set pieces. 1 from a Matty Cash long throw versus Newcastle, and 2 coming from corners versus Everton and Manchester United. Rather interestingly, it's worth noting at this point that the only 3 games that Dean Smith did win as Villa manager were the only 3 games that Villa have scored from set pieces. Coincidence? So why then were Villa fans left unimpressed by Austin MacPhee? Well, last season, before MacPhee had joined the club, Aston Villa were roughly scoring a set-piece goal every 3.5 games, slightly better than the league average of a set-piece goal every 4 games. Of all the goals that Villa did score last season, set-pieces accounted for around 20% of them, which again was slightly above the league average of 18.3%. So then, looking at the 14 games under Smith this season, with Austin MacPhee at his side, Aston Villa were averaging a set-piece goal every 3.7 games, marginally worse than the 3.5 games last season. That equated to 21.4% of their total goals scored, slightly more than the 20% from last season. So it's fair to say there was little in the way of improvement, and despite seeing some well-rehearsed routines and the introduction of long throws, the appointment had seemed mostly ineffective. However, since Gerrard has taken over the reins at Aston Villa, their set-piece stats have gone through the roof. In the 4 games played under Gerrard, 57% of the goals scored from Aston Villa have come from set pieces, averaging a goal a game, which at that rate is considerably better than any other team in the league. Gerrard has made it abundantly clear in his interviews that he wants to keep how we train and play secretive. It's therefore unclear whether he's had any influence on MacPhee's training or whether he's allocated any more time to that. The upturn in set-piece form since he arrived could purely be coincidence, or more likely, it could be to do with the fact that we've played against the 2 worst teams at defending set pieces in the league. Either way, the stats are looking really positive, so let's take a deeper look at those 4 goals. Just before we get into that, please take a second to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. Likes and subscribes are what keeps me motivated to keep making more videos just like this. Steven Gerrard mentioned in his post-match interview that they had identified a weakness in Crystal Palace's defending of the second phase of set pieces. The second phase of a set piece is when the defending team initially clears the ball, but the attacking team instantly regains possession and puts the ball straight back in the box. Often, defending teams can be caught out whilst reorganising or just from ball watching. It was clear that Aston Villa had targeted this by forming 2 clusters of players on set pieces. The first cluster was closer to the back post and normally consisted of Mings, Nakamba and Target, whilst the second cluster was based more around the front post, and that consisted of Konza, McGinn and Watkins, and looked to be there purely in preparation for the second phase of play. In the first cluster, you have Mings, whose job is very obviously the main aerial threat in the first phase of play. His aim is to attack the ball as best he can. Meanwhile, Nakamba appears to be there purely as a blocker. It looks like his job is to delay the defender that is most likely to close down the cross or shot that will start the second phase of play. Most interestingly though is Matt Target. His presence, like most fullbacks in the league, is rarely seen attacking a corner. So why was he here versus Crystal Palace? Well, first of all, he fakes as if to make the same run as Tyrone Mings. This means his defender actually ends up following Tyrone Mings and completely losing track of him when he actually instead starts to drop, leaving him in lots of space to take the shot. I believe he was really there to pick up any clearances or overhit corners, and to start the second phase by crossing the ball back in. So when the ball does actually drop to his feet, he can't believe his luck and fires the ball home for the goal. The second cluster is also interesting. You have McGinn, who makes a curved run to the edge of the box. His job is to simply take a shot for any balls that have been cleared only to the edge of the area, with Nakamba blocking any onrushing defenders. Konza and Watkins then have similar jobs. For starters, both are a threat in the box, so they drag two strong Crystal Palace defenders from defending the first phase of play. Secondly, they are then instantly ready for any second phase. Should the ball be headed or crossed back across goal towards the original near post, they can then go and attack the ball. The goal against Man City was a superb finish from Ollie Watkins, but there is some movement in the area that really helps to create the space for him. Man City use a mix of zonal and man marking in the area. The zonal markers are Cancelo, who sets up in line with the front post, then Diaz, Rodri, Ake and Zinchenko in a sort of zigzag fashion across the edge of the 6-yard box, and Fernandinho, who is positioned centrally between the penalty spot and the 6-yard box. The zonal players are also picking up Konza and Mings when they enter their zones, but their main task is to aggressively attack the ball. In fact, if you watch an earlier corner in the game, you'll see just how they swarm the ball. Sterling is positioned, not marking anyone, and ready to counter-attack or assist Mahrez in pressing the play if a short corner is taken. That leaves Jesus to mark Nakamba and Bernardo Silva marking Watkins, whilst actually no one is picking up Mac Target. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the goal that was scored. First, Buendia makes a dummy run as if to go and play short, which in turn momentarily drags Cancelo out of shape until Mahrez does then go and pick him up. Whilst Cancelo does start to recover and get back into his normal position, there's no doubt that this did start off the disruption. Next, Mings is tasked with blocking Rodri from attacking the ball. Without this, Rodri would have got to the ball first and cleared it, or at the very least been close enough to block the shot from Ollie Watkins. Watkins then actually uses Sterling as a bit of a distraction by standing very tight to him. Sterling is not meant to be marking Watkins, and so this helps to create a distraction for Bernardo Silva, who is supposed to be marking him. This actually resulted in Bernardo Silva's starting position being slightly deeper than normal, I assume to try and give himself more time to react. But what it actually does is it allows Watkins to get a run on him and then have the momentum to go and attack the ball. What follows is an absolutely brilliant finish, despite only ending up as a consolation goal. The first goal versus Leicester came from a free kick, and Leicester had mostly set up in a zonal fashion to defend this, with only Mings being tracked by a man marker. Ramsey and Buendia actually start in offside positions. Their role is to both displace the dropping defensive line as the ball is delivered in for the first time, but also to come alive in any second phases of play. It's worth noting also that Leicester have chosen to keep their defensive line very narrow and compact to essentially defend the space between the two goalposts. This means that Matty Cash, who stays very wide, is not being picked up at all. As the ball is delivered in, Ramsey and Buendia start to move back into onside positions. On their way through, Ramsey actually gives a little shove and just generally gets in the way of the defenders that are trying to clear the ball. This results in Evans making a poor clearance which finds the ball loop towards the back post area, where Cash can essentially keep it alive by heading it back across goal into a more dangerous area. In fact, Konza actually blocks one of the defenders to give Cash more time for the ball to drop and to get a better connection on it. The ball then finds its way to Emi Buendia, who has now come from an offside position back onside and into a dangerous area unmarked. He heads the ball back goalwards, but much to his disappointment, Konza is still lurking around the back post area and gets the slightest of touches to seal the deal. The second goal came from an in-swinging corner taken by John McGinn. Again, Leicester are set up mostly zonal, defending the width of their goal inside their own 6-yard area. Mings is the only player being marked again, and that allows Konza to be positioned just past the back post with no marker, something he said in his post-match interview that Austin MacPhee had told him to do at half-time. Nakamba and Cash are standing either side of the Leicester goalkeeper, Schmeichel, with their hands held behind their back. The hands being behind their back is a clear recognition of the protection that keepers normally get in this situation, and an attempt to put him off without giving the referee any reason to give a foul. Their positioning allows McGinn to swing the corner in across an area where you'd normally expect the keeper to dominate and clear the cross, instead keeping Schmeichel on his goal line though. This allows the ball across, which the unmarked Konza can then attack from near point-blank range. So, to summarise, Austin MacPhee has really earned his wage since Gerrard has come through the door, and repaid the faith that Gerrard showed in him by keeping him on. His pre-planned routines not only create goal-scoring opportunities in the first phase of a set-piece, but are also designed to keep the ball alive and allow Villa to carry considerable threat in the second and later phases of play. However, now that attacking set pieces is starting to look like a consistent threat, perhaps he could turn his attention to defending them as well, as Villa currently have conceded the third highest amount of goals from set pieces this season. All in all though, a good start, and keep up the great work, Austin. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to make sure you see more videos like this in the future. If you did like this video, don't forget to tell me in the comments below so I can make sure I keep making ones just like this.